Hi everybody, this is Jean here. I haven't posted for a while and I wanted to show you tonight how I do an incredibly easy quilt block. It's called the 10-minute block, and actually this is not my idea. If you go on YouTube, you'll see a woman, her name is Suzanne McNeil, and she actually has explained this quilt block here. I've made different quilts. This quilt here is the block. I wanted to show you the different incredible variations of this block. It's 5 pieces of fabric. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It can be made in any size. This quilt over here, these are on my computer. This quilt over here, I just want to show you where the block is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It works up incredibly quickly, and I'm going to show you the process. Again, if you want to go see the original, her name is Suzanne McNeil. I'm not taking credit for this, but I do have a few variations of how I do this that I'm going to show you. What you do is you start out with actually any size blocks that you would like. And this one, I think Suzanne McNeil does 10-inch blocks, and it makes up, I believe, a 24-inch, 10-inch squares. It makes up like a 24-inch block. I'm actually using this square ruler here. It was very easy for me. Literally, I just cut out a bunch of squares. This one is this quilt here, which is sort of an Americana, maroon, blues, and tans look. Sort of down home. Looks very complicated. It's the easiest thing you'd ever want to see. And I want to show you how to do it. What you need for your block is you need 5 squares. Any size you want. But they all have to be the exact same size. So you cut out your squares. And what I do to make the design a little bit more interesting, I do, on this quilt, I did a dark, 2 darks, 2 lights, okay? And then what you do is to get this block going, you're going to take a dark and a light. And you want this part here, which is the tan, which is over here on this block. You see that little bit of tan, that little bit of cream? That is this piece. Now, it doesn't make any sense right now, but just bear with me. So you take this piece that you're going to cut, the same exact size. You don't iron it. You just fold it in half. And you have a square, so whichever way. You're going to have your dark piece here. You're going to place this piece here, just folded, and then take an opposite light piece. Now this block is a miracle because it literally has 3 seams. So I'm going to just sew this light to the dark with this folded piece in between. 1/4-inch seam. You want to really follow along closely because it's really quite a miracle. So you open it up and you have this piece here, this bridging piece. No need to iron it. In fact, I suggest don't iron it at all, and you'll see why I say that. Now, you have this piece like a bridge. Now what you want to do is you want to take, this is a solid, I can use either one. You're going to take this piece here, opposite. That's the, you want to do dark, light, dark, light, dark. So I put right sides together for the light to the dark, which is underneath. The first one was the dark to the light, which was underneath. And I've just taken that there. This is my second seam. Just start my second seam. It's called the 10-minute quilt block. Once you get going, it's shocking how fast it goes. Now what you have is this contraption here. You're thinking, what in the world do you do now? Now this is a little bit tricky. You have this here, with this bridging part. What you do is, if you notice how it was constructed, I have the light and the dark. You want to put those pieces together, and since you've cut them exactly the same size, you're going to have this third seam. But here is the tricky part. What you want to do is you have your bridging piece here. You want to carefully open that piece up. Okay? There's the seam here. There's the seam there. You want to open this up and match your seams. You can put a pin right there. Make sure you don't catch it. And I don't actually even use a pin. You probably want to. You want to make sure that this bridging piece here is kept free, because it's a little bit folded, it's a little bit funky. You'll see why. Here's your dark, here's your bridging piece, here's your light, and just holding it there. This is our third seam. Now just wait, you'll see when I get to the middle. This is your third seam. Caught that. Now I'm going to go along and just very, very carefully pull it out to its furthest. Don't pull so hard. You can feel where it's going to just sit nicely. And I'm going to come down and sew over that the pin. And then that's sewn, and I'm just going to come down with my finger here. I'm going to pull that out gently, lining up the bottom and this bridging piece, and then I'll come back with my dark. This is our third seam. Everything matches perfectly, as you see, and I didn't even pin it. Very carefully capturing that in there. Now, this is where the magic happens. You won't believe it. So you say 3 seams. What are you making? You're making a block that big with this in here. Now, what Suzanne McNeil has said, and which I've done always, you can, right now, you can just top stitch that down like that, around there, and you have a square, a beautiful diamond in your block shape. But what I take it one step further, because I actually don't like this bunch of stuff here. You can't see it, but you don't want to iron this right now. You want to pull. What I do is you pull this up and just pull up the middle part of that little bunch of things, and just cut about a quarter, a bit larger than a quarter, $50 worth of lump out of the front, out of the middle, without capturing that piece right there. Okay, now I'm going to take it over, and technically, after you iron it, you iron these seams here. You see a beautiful block. How quick was that? Now you could finish it, or what I like to do, and I'll show you again on this quilt here. On this quilt here, here is, forget this piece right now, here is my one light, dark block, okay? Now you're saying, well, how did you get that piece in there? That's a little bit of toile in this here. So I'll show you what I did. I went over here because I wanted it to be a bit more interesting. And say instead of the toile, I'm going to use this gingham. Very homespun-y looking gingham. So I'm going to come in here, and you'll see how this comes about. It's really an awesome trick. I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to just do this about 1/4 of an inch smaller. So this square here, in the middle, that piece of 12 that I did, is a little, it's about 4 3/4 on this piece of, on this block here. So I'm going to go over to my gingham, as it were, and I'm going to cut a piece. I'm going to cut a piece about 4 3/4. Now again, you can do this with any size squares. You can make 5-inch squares to make like a 10-inch block. You can make 12-inch squares to make this massive block. The quilt works up incredibly, incredibly quickly, and yet it looks very complicated. As you can see, this looks a fairly complicated quilt here, but in essence, it's only a few blocks. Now I'll show you what I do here. This is the magic of this quilt. Remember, I've only made 3 seams. You can keep going back to the video and seeing how those 3 seams were made. I take this, and you notice I haven't ironed anything yet. I haven't ironed the middle part, and I'll show you why. I put this exactly centered. This is my little variation off of the original Suzanne McNeil. I'll start here. And this is on the bias edge, this square here, the frame. And this is raw edge, but what it does, you just turn it over, and this, miraculously, you just tuck that piece of gingham in there. You don't even have to pull up your threads because it's on the bottom. You just start top stitching, catching that gingham, and it just folds over so beautifully to make that curved edge. Now I'm going to stitch it here, as you can see, along the inner edge, and because this is already sewn, I just turn it over, and it's made this lovely point, this lovely curve. And I go to the end, and I turn around, and I do the exact same thing. And this, you can see your curve? If there's no curved piecing, there's a few seams, and you get this fairly complicated block. You come to the end, and this bias just pulls right over. You just want to let the fabric do its thing. You just let that go there to the end. You turn it around, and so that piece of tan, this cream tan, just becomes the frame. Now you could have just left it tan, but I like that little bit in the middle. And then just tuck this around. Just do it this way. Once you start making them, it's addictive because it goes so very quickly. Then you come around to the end, and it's fine. You just sort of top stitch it along. It's not perfect, it's fine. You just let that just curve there. And to the end. Now, cut my things. Now, before I go to the ironing board, remember when I cut out that middle bit? Well, you'll see there's a hole here. What do? Here's my other pair of scissors. With a nice sharp pair of scissors, I come over to the ironing board, and I've just pressed these seams where they fall, and you can see where I've stitched, okay? Now I want to get rid, because there's 2 layers there, I want to get rid of all this stuff. So I've made that little hole, remember? So I just go up, my scissors just end right there, and you really do have to turn this right around so you can feel right along that stitching, that top stitching, as it were. And you're cutting out all of this stuff here. Don't need it. You're cutting out all of this, and then being very careful, obviously, not to cut that tan bit. And then you turn it over, and now here's where you can press your beautiful block. It's embellished a bit. Again, you can leave that empty. You can just have the cream. You can just stitch it square, but I like the curve. And then when I go to when I go to quilt it, I'll just quilt along these seams, just straight, and then I'll just tuck that down because there's a little pocket here. So how you attach it, oops, my foot fell, is literally this quilt. There's one, now how long did that take me? I'm even talking and it only took me a few minutes. So here's 1 block, 2 blocks, 3 blocks, 4 blocks. Now what I did is, if you can see, and I just did this on the fly because I wanted to make it a bit more interesting, I actually treated the four blocks as like, just like my smaller block, my smaller square, if you can understand it. So I had this here. I created 4 of these, dark, light, dark, dark, light, and then I actually sewed them together with a piece. I had the piece of cream and tan, the exact size of this, which, however it is, it's a perfect square. Again, I just did a big version of the small bridging piece. And that, if you notice, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is a big version of this. How long did that take? This top took me about 2 hours, if that, to make, because it's literally 1 block, 2 blocks, 3 blocks, 4 blocks, and yet it makes up huge. Again, I made variations of this quilt with 5-inch blocks, with 12-inch blocks. It's amazing how quickly it works up. And again, you can have lots of, if you want to come over here, Elliot, you have lots of variations. On this one, I actually bordered it. I did a gray one. This is a flannel quilt, actually. I did a gray and a red. Gray and a red. And again, dark, light, dark, light, dark, light. And it doesn't matter how, if you just do dark, light, when you go to sew it together, it will work out. You can turn them upside down and figure it out. That's about 13 different fabrics with a nice wide border. This one, if you can see, here's the block, here's the middle. You know, these are just primary colors. I actually, at the end of the day, I actually scalloped them. I just went back and scalloped them and put appliques. And it makes a completely different look. But as I said, it's if you look on YouTube, Suzanne McNeil, I'm not stealing her idea. She gave me the idea, but I like the idea that you take out the middle of it so it's not all yucky, and then you can press it and you can make pillows. It's almost like an easy cathedral windows quilt, if you look that up. But yeah, so that's my version of the 10-minute block. I hope you enjoyed it.